Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and I got sent something very cool that I'm excited about. I talked about it a little bit. This is the Gamemaster. Let me try to get in the frame here. Build your own dungeon core set. And so if you are looking at getting into building your own terrain, this is kind of marketed towards like role-playing games where you're doing like Dungeons and Dragons or Soulbound or something like that. However, any game, skirmish or otherwise, will work really well for this. So I want to unpack it. This is a bit of an unboxing video and walk you through the possibilities that you can do with Gamemaster. All right, so with the lid popped off, let's take a look at what we got here. With quite a bit. I want to save this booklet because I think that it is incredible and we need to talk about what's actually in there. You get a few little pre-made terrain pieces. We have a few, this is like a little chest and looks like a ladder. Yep. And what is that? A weapon. There's like, there we go. So yeah, we have a resin, feels like a very heavy plastic chest. We have a trap door. I like that quite a bit. A little pull crank arm and a step ladder, which is cool. There's just great ways to add a little bit of theme and narrative to any piece that you have. We have a whole bunch of, I'm not going to pull it out too much because it makes too much noise. This is basically styrofoam board. It comes with a bunch. However, you can also get this at like a local craft store for very, very cheap. So I guess when I look at this kit, what I'm looking for is how do I get started making my own terrain? I can find my own resources afterwards, like for restocking, but does this give me everything I need to create cool settings? And I think the answer is yes. So we also get, they even rubber banded it for us. Nice. So this is from the same guys who do Army Painter. So they have their sand in there. And that's going to become important here in just a sec. We have Terrain Primer. Now, what makes this special is that it is, I believe, is it water-based? Basically, it's not going to melt the foam. Most spray paints will melt the foam. There's certain kinds and mixtures that will prevent it from doing so. So that's kind of nice. It also does have their 100% color match to a specific shade of black that they have, so you can touch everything up. We have two huge things of paint. We have Dungeon Base, which is sort of a stone color, and the other one is Cavern Base, so sort of a mud color. And that's just literally so you can just paint all this stuff. You get a set of brushes, palettes, and a cutter. That's amazing. And then a whole bunch of more paints in there. These ones are more classic style or amount of paints is what I'm trying to say. Let's see. It gives you a cool little description of how to use these, how to fill them up. Some instructions if you want to convert these into airbrush paints. So that's kind of nice. And what is that? Is that thinner or is that glue? Let's see. Okay, yeah, and here we have some foam sculpting glue. Okay. So let's talk about this. They have one more thing in here. And this, to me, is the prize. We have here, this is a hot wire foam cutter. Essentially, you're going to put batteries in this sucker. And as it's connecting and that kind of thing, you will find that this wire here heats up extremely hot. And it'll go through these tiles, these foam tiles, like a warm knife through butter. Let's pause for a moment and talk about in terms of the sheer value of things that you get in the box, because I promise the value is going to go up once we dive into that booklet that I talked about before. So for me, when it comes to evaluating the contents of the box, all of these things can be bought at like a crafts goods store. Like there's nothing in this set that is wholly unique. However, there is one thing unique about it, and that is it is all in one. So instead of trying to figure this stuff out for yourself, how do I get into terrain creation and building my own dungeons for my games, whatever that game might be, a huge hindrance is just literally without this specific hobby, I have no reason to know that this exists. I did not know that hot wire foam cutters existed before I started getting into miniature wargaming, because I would never use this. So the fact that it comes with everything you need right out of the gate to get started. You have your actual foam. There's, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's like 3 or 4 sheets, big sheets that are the size of the box in there. Some of them are just folded in half. Gives you a bunch of those to play around with. Those are probably the easiest things to replace in this set, which is good because they're the cheapest at your local craft store. But the fact that it comes with enough materials, paints and brushes and stuff like that to create 2 different types of dungeons. You have your dungeon base where it's like stone, and then you have your cavern base where it's like rock and stuff like that, I think is a fantastic value. Now, all of this stuff means nothing if you don't know how to actually make things with it. And so that's what we're going to talk about right now. Because included inside of this box is this incredible... I don't often compliment, people who make small handouts often, but Army Painter, whoever designed this document, there's also a PDF version online, give them a raise. Okay. So it essentially breaks down the creation of Gamemaster terrain kind of in its own little quest, okay? It kind of goes through all the different aspects of what you get. There is a in-depth companion guide, that kind of thing, where you can hover your phone for QR codes and it'll go into more detail about that specific section. And essentially, it kind of walks you through. The first thing you're going to do is texture the foam, cut it, paint it, and be done with it. You'll start playing with it. So if we look at this, they're kind of giving you a bunch of examples. Again, each of these QR codes is a different tutorial. If you have not seen it, Army Painter has like a bajillion tutorials for this thing. Their artists in-house have been killing it lately. Everything from how to create water. We have a spike pit. What is this? How to paint the specific characters. They don't sell a ton of actual miniatures, but they do have some, just so you can have characters to play if you're playing like a D&D type thing. But also stuff like this, where it's like, here's how you build the monolith, the doorway, all that kind of stuff. So we'll skip ahead here. What they suggest is you basically come up with a rough layout. And I love this. Use some graph paper. Come up with a design. Next, you're going to texture it, meaning you rough up the foam a little bit. They're using rocks to kind of press into it, which I think is a great, cheap way to do stuff. You also have your hobby knife. For them, they used a ruler to cut out a grid. Again, if you're just building terrain for like AOS, you don't have to. Nothing says everything has to be in straight lines. Don't even worry about it. So you're cutting it all up, putting gashes in the earth. Next is the cutting part where you're actually making the tiles themselves. And of course, you have the hot wire cutter if you want to make odd edges and rough kind of features like that. Let's see, and finally you can add areas of rubble, which is taking this huge thing of sand and putting it on there before you prime it. Okay, so you're essentially basing, even though the whole thing is a base. Comes over to the painting section. Again, it's just like using a rattle can. It's just a different combination of chemicals that means it won't melt the foam outright. And then it comes to the painting, and it walks you through a very brief description of like, hey, here's the Army Painter paints that you have, which is great. Again, they're all included in that little tub. And it walks you through how to create a very, very simple dungeon. And there's nothing cooler than that, right? They're walking you through a few of the tiles they have here. They even have some grass tufts and stuff like that because it's Army Painter. They sell a bunch of those things. And they give you some great inspiration of things you can design. Now you'll see in some of these pictures, it's multi-level. That's because they just keep cutting smaller and smaller portions of the stone and stacking it up. And so, again, it's not the most complicated thing, but it's so interesting to see. Here's one. I watched this tutorial online, actually. They basically created a pool of gunk. And so it's 2 layers of foam on top of one another. And the first one is like a circle, like it's hollow. Put it in there, and you fill in that bowl that you've created with gunk and stuff. It's so cool. It's all so gross and so cool at the same time. And they give you a bunch of examples of, okay, with the resources that you had, here's how we can then grow things further. So, for example, they give you a list of paints, which is awesome. Their color match guarantee makes this really, really simple. They give you just instructions on creating lava, bridges, there we go, metallic dragon scales. That's very specific. Didn't expect that one. And just a bunch of this stuff. I love it. I think that, like I said, whoever made this deserves a raise. And then you come on to the back where there is advanced techniques. And again, it's the same principles. It's just taken to the next level. Stairs. Marble? Oh, are you kidding me? We have mold. what is that? Rope and brick walls. So anyway, the reason I wanted to point this out is because, one, the good folks over at Gamemaster were just kind enough to send me a set for free, and I just wanted to talk about it. Originally, I had plans to do my own custom Warhammer Quest board, but I'll be honest, my hopes were kind of dashed for that. So right now, I'm going to focus on creating some really cool terrain for Warcry within the dungeons, Catacombs, that kind of thing. I think that would be really cool to do. But if you look, they actually have different kinds of primers. And again, these are all color matched. Everything from the ones that they already gave you. But then you also have Wilderness, Ruins and Cliffs, Snow Tundra, Deserts and Waste, and a Matte Sealer. I don't know. I think there's just so much going on here within this little booklet. Like, to me, this is a value all of its own. And so putting it all together, do I think that the Gamemaster, massive mega bundle is worth it? Absolutely. Because for real, there's value in the two things that this box provides, and that is there's value in having everything in one place, so people who are new to creating their own terrain can actually get into it in a reasonable way. But then also this booklet. This booklet is my favorite thing in wargaming because it's just such a succinct way of like, we have given you these tools. They show you how to use the things that you already have in a myriad of ways, creating pillars and stone rifts and water effects and all that kind of stuff like that. And then they're like, okay, we also have some stuff that allows you to take your things to the next level. And because you have the base material, it's not a lot of investment. It's not like they're kind of getting you in, with a special offer and it's all cheap and then everything else is super expensive. No, I mean, the thing for creating that entire lava scene was just, I think it was like 6 paints. I'm like, that's nothing compared to if you were to take the time to learn how to do this, buy it all separately, have to experiment with colors to come up with on its own. This is a huge value. It's a huge win. So friends, yes, I'm going to be making a Warcry Catacombs board for myself. I'm very excited to get started on it, and I'm going to be doing some cool things with it in the future. As far as, who this product is for, here's the thing. It's easy to look at this with all the pictures and stuff like that they have on the front and be like, oh, they're marketing to role-playing game folks, right? And that's true. They definitely are. I mean, the fact that they call it a dungeons and caves and caverns and all kind of stuff, it really appeals to dungeon diving games. However, keep in mind that if you're a Seraphon player, this entire thing is just perfect for your terrain, first of all. I mean, the things that you get in this box are not specific to any game whatsoever. There's no reason you can't take your wire cutter and cut all different kinds of shapes. Nothing has to have a grid on it. It's pure creation. They're just giving you a ton of tools to do whatever you want. And for me, there's a lot of value in that. And two, the fact that they give you some great directions on where to go and expand and that kind of stuff is wonderful. So between this and the foam things that you can buy at your local craft store to kind of augment what's already there, I don't know. I got some cool ideas. I want to show them off here pretty soon, but we'll be doing this on air quite a bit, I think, with the exception of the hot wire cutter because that has fumes and that kind of thing. So anyway, big shout out to Army Painter for sending me this. Thank you so much. The Gamemaster set is really cool. You will be seeing it on the channel, and I hope that you will all join me for that coming up here soon. Go out there, try and do something new, creative, something like that with terrain rather than just miniatures, and support the industry and the companies that make our hobby, capital H hobby, for wargaming possible through all the different painting things and crafts and hobby supplies that we need to keep going. So thank you so much, Army Painter. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll catch you next time. Happy wargaming.